My friends, around the world, people are talking about it. A new economic powerhouse, a land of innovation, ambition, and unstoppable momentum. They call it the Indian miracle, a 4 trillion economy, a rising global force, a nation whose youth dream bigger than ever before. And yes, the numbers sound impressive. The skyscrapers rise higher, the tech parks expand wider, the headlines shine brighter. But beneath that glitter, we must dare to ask the real question: is this miracle truly lifting everyone or leaving many behind? Because a nation's greatness is not measured only by its GDP. It's measured by the dignity of its people. It's measured by whether a farmer can feed his family, whether a young woman can start her own business, whether every child, no matter where they're born, has a fair chance to rise. India's success is not just about wealth, it's about worth. And the worth of a nation lies in the hands of those who build, create, and dream, not just those who profit. So when we say India's economic miracle, let's look closer. Let's expose not to criticize, but to understand. Let's expose the barriers, the inequality, the corruption, the broken systems that still hold people back. Let's expose them so we can fix them. Because the truth is, India's power doesn't lie in a number on a spreadsheet. It lies in the determination of a young coder in Bengaluru, in the resilience of a farmer in Punjab, in the dreams of a girl in a small village who refuses to give up. That, my friends, is the real miracle. Not just the economy that grows, but the people who rise. And if India can ensure that its progress includes everyone, if its wealth reflects fairness, if its power inspires purpose, then this miracle will not just be exposed, it will be fulfilled. When we talk about India's rise to a $4 trillion economy, the world often celebrates the numbers, the rapid GDP growth, the booming tech sector, the foreign investments, the glimmering skylines of Mumbai and Bengaluru. But behind those headlines lies a deeper, more complex reality that demands our attention. Numbers can impress, but they can also mislead. They can tell a story of growth without telling us who's growing and who's being left behind. Economic growth on paper can look extraordinary while millions still struggle to access clean water, reliable health care, or quality education. The stock markets might soar, yet the average worker's wages remain stagnant. Corporations may report record profits, while small shop owners close their doors. So when we see the headlines shouting, India's 4 trillion miracle, we must pause and ask, whose miracle is it? A nation cannot be measured by its GDP alone. That number doesn't capture the sleepless nights of farmers facing unpredictable rains. It doesn't reflect the dreams of young graduates who can't find jobs that match their skills. It doesn't show the quiet sacrifices of parents trying to give their children a better life. These are the invisible threads of the economy, the human stories that often go unheard when all the focus is on numbers. Real growth must be felt, not just calculated. It must reach the streets, the villages, the classrooms, and the hospitals. It should empower the people who build the nation's foundation, the workers, the teachers, the nurses, the small business owners, not just those who sit at the top of the financial ladder. When we challenge the illusion of economic success, we are not denying India's achievements, we are defending their meaning. Because if prosperity is concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority remain on the margins, that is not progress, it's imbalance. True progress means the fruit of growth is shared, not hoarded. It means that the glow of modern India shines on everyone, not just those within the walls of wealth. True success for any nation cannot simply be measured by the height of its towers, the size of its economy, or the speed of its stock market rise. Those are symbols of progress, yes, but they're not the soul of it. The true measure of a nation's success lies in the condition of its people, in how it treats the weak, in how it uplifts the poor, and in whether every citizen, no matter their background or birthplace, has a fair chance to live with dignity and hope. When we speak of India's remarkable economic growth, we must also speak of what that growth means in real human terms. Does it mean that every child can go to school without worrying about hunger? Does it mean that a young woman in a rural town has the same opportunity as one in a big city to chase her dreams? Does it mean that a worker can earn enough not just to survive, but to live with pride? Because if the answer is no, then the growth we celebrate is incomplete. True success is not built on wealth alone. It is built on fairness, compassion, and shared opportunity. A rising GDP should not just raise profits. It should raise people. It should build bridges, not barriers. When a nation grows, it must grow in spirit as well as in numbers. That means creating an economy where progress is not a privilege for the few, but a promise for the many. A strong economy that does not serve its people equally is like a tree with roots that don't reach deep enough. It may look grand from afar, but it stands on fragile ground. The test of real development is not how fast the rich can grow richer, but how effectively the poor can rise out of poverty. The true mark of strength is not just how many billionaires a nation produces, but how many families it lifts out of struggle and despair. The real strength of India does not lie in the glimmer of glass buildings, nor in the profit charts of multinational corporations. It lies in its people, in the quiet, determined, and relentless spirit of ordinary citizens who wake up every day to build something meaningful with limited means, but an unlimited courage. These are the men and women who make the wheels of the nation turn, often unseen, often uncelebrated. And yet, they're the heartbeat of India's progress. When we speak of economic power, we must remember that it is not forged in boardrooms alone. It is born in the crowded markets where shopkeepers bargain to keep their livelihoods alive. It is shaped by the farmers who work under the scorching sun, feeding 1 billion people with the sweat of their labor. It is built by the hands of construction workers, artisans, and small business owners who keep faith even when the odds seem insurmountable. India's true wealth is its people, the innovators, the creators, the thinkers, and the dreamers. The young engineer in Bengaluru coding late into the night for a global project. The teacher in a small village who inspires children to believe they can be more. The mother who sacrifices her comfort so her child can study in a better school. These are not just individuals. They are the invisible architects of the nation's rise. Empowering the people means investing in their education, ensuring they have access to fair wages, and giving them the tools to innovate and compete. Means not just praising the potential of youth, but creating real paths for them to thrive. It means giving farmers access to technology that improves their yield, not leaving them trapped by debt. It means helping small businesses grow instead of being crushed by large monopolies. For too long, the narrative of growth has celebrated those at the top while overlooking those at the foundation. But a nation cannot stand tall if its base is weak. The strength of India's future depends on whether its ordinary citizens feel empowered to participate in that future, not as spectators, but as equal contributors. To expose something is not to destroy it, it is to understand it. It is to hold a mirror up to the truth, to see what lies beneath the surface, and to have the courage to confront it. When we speak about India's economic growth, when we marvel at its 4 trillion achievement, we must also be brave enough to ask, what stories do the numbers not tell? What challenges do the bright lights conceal? To expose inequality, corruption, or inefficiency is not an act of disrespect. It is an act of responsibility. Every great nation that has ever grown stronger has done so not by denying its flaws, but by facing them. Progress begins where honesty begins, and honesty demands that we look at both sides of the coin, the prosperity and the pain, the advancement and the inequality, the success and the struggle. When we expose what is broken, we open the door to fixing it. Pretending that everything is fine only deepens the cracks. A nation that hides its problems cannot heal. A nation that admits them can rebuild. By acknowledging the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, India shows its strength, not its weakness. For only the brave confront their own imperfections. The act of exposing is not about shame, it is about change. It is about refusing to accept that inequality is inevitable. It is about believing that India deserves better, that its people deserve transparency, fairness, and opportunity. When citizens and leaders alike dare to look truth in the face, without fear, without denial, they begin the real work of transformation. Because true patriotism is not blind celebration. It is the courage to question, to challenge, and to improve. It is the willingness to say, we are proud of how far we've come, but we are not done yet. Only through that spirit of self-examination can India's growth evolve from a story of statistics into a story of justice. Progress means nothing if it lifts only a few while leaving millions behind. A rising economy that does not rise for everyone eventually becomes a burden on itself, because inequality is not just unfair, it is unsustainable. True development must be inclusive, reaching not just the privileged cities, but also the silent villages, not just those who already have opportunities, but those who have been waiting for generations to be seen. When we talk about India's progress, we must ask, is growth being shared, or is it being concentrated? Are we building an economy that works for the people, or one that works only for profit? The real measure of success is not how many billionaires a country produces, but how many families it lifts from poverty, how many children it educates, how many citizens it empowers to dream beyond their circumstances. Inclusive growth means breaking the invisible walls that divide opportunity. It means ensuring that a farmer's child in Bihar can access the same quality of education as a businessman's child in Delhi. It means giving every worker fair wages and safe conditions, not treating them as disposable tools for cheap labor. It means creating a system where hard work and talent, not birth or connection, determine success. If India's progress is to be celebrated, it must be shared. If its future is to be bright, it must be built by all, not for a few. True inclusion does not happen naturally. It requires intention, fairness, and empathy. It demands leaders who see beyond the numbers and into the lives behind them. It asks for policies that protect the vulnerable and promote equality as a principle, not as an afterthought. Because when every citizen feels that they belong to the nation's success, when every worker sees themselves in the story of its rise, then growth becomes more than economic, it becomes emotional, moral, and human. That is the kind of progress that endures, progress that does not divide, but unites, progress that does not exclude, but embraces, progress that does not shine for a few, but lights the path for all. The true miracle of India will not be defined by how high its GDP climbs, but by how deeply its progress touches the lives of its people. A nation's greatness is not written in economic statistics. It is written in the hopes it fulfills, in the justice it upholds, and in the dreams it makes possible. India's journey is not just about building wealth. It is about building a nation where every citizen, regardless of status or circumstance, can rise with dignity and purpose. To fulfill the promise of this so-called economic miracle, India must ensure that its progress is rooted in fairness. Growth cannot be meaningful if it does not bring balance. Prosperity cannot be celebrated if it widens the divide between the privileged and the powerless. The measure of true success is not how fast the economy grows, but how well it serves the people who give it life. If India's growth can become inclusive, compassionate, and sustainable, if it can protect the planet while empowering the people, if it can foster innovation without losing integrity, then its miracle will not just be economic, it will be moral. It will show the world that prosperity and humanity can coexist, that ambition and empathy can rise together. When every Indian, from the smallest village to the busiest city, feels that their life matters, that their voice counts, that their dream is possible, that is when the miracle will be real. Not because of what the nation has gained, but because of what it has given. The miracle will not be exposed, it will be completed. It will be a testament to the belief that a country's true strength lies not just in its growth, but in its grace, not just in its power, but in its purpose. And so, my friends, as we look at India standing tall before the world, confident, ambitious, unstoppable, let us remember that true greatness is not found in the size of our economy, but in the strength of our unity. It is not measured by what we build, but by whom we lift. The world is watching India, yes, but more importantly, India is watching itself. The choices made today will decide whether this 4 trillion story becomes a tale of the few or a triumph for all. The future will not be written by numbers alone. It will be written by the hearts and hands of 1 billion people who dare to dream bigger, work harder, and believe deeper. If India can turn its promise into purpose, its ambition into equality, and its growth into justice, then the so-called economic miracle will become something far greater. It will become a moral victory for humanity, because in the end, the real power of India is not in its wealth, but in its will. Not in what it has achieved, but in what it dares to become. And when every Indian can stand tall and say, I am part of this progress, I am part of this promise, I am part of this nation's rise, then, and only then, will India's miracle truly be fulfilled.